We are
Now
live.
remember.
No, Andy, you know what? Karina to replace. I changed my mind. Not an addition to. All right.
No.
I'm kidding.
This is Literary Roadhouse, one short story once a week. I'm Gerald.
I'm Andy.
And I'm Anise.
And this week, last week, the week before, we've been reading Hollow by Breece DJ Pancake. And what an interesting guy he was. And just quickly, his proper name is Breece Dexter Pancake, but then he took the name John, and then his name was misspelt by Atlantic Monthly as D''J. So he's kept. So it's Breece DJ Pancake. Anyway, summary. Here's his story. We follow a day in the life of Buddy. He works with his cousin Curtis, his sidekick E-Step, and a few others mining a coal seam in the wilds of Virginia. He has grand ideas to abandon their hard manual labor and bring in machines to mine the coal. But he always has big dreams, and his partner Sally, back at the trailer, takes coke and tells him she's leaving with another of the mine workers, Fuller. At the bar that night, he drinks and plays pool. Fuller draws up in his car with Sally and their TV on board, and she hands over their dog, who was on heat. Next day, he wakes up on the floor of the trailer. The dog has been out all night, and Buddy now suspects she's pregnant. There's little food for him and Lindy, the dog, so he heads out into the wilderness and shoots a wild deer who is carrying a fawn, and he butchers the doe and eats its liver. The end. That sounds really boring, doesn't it, the way I described that?
Yeah.
No, I thought it was a very good summary, actually.
I thought it
It's
was a
summary.
very good summary also, because it was
Yeah.
a very good summary of a boring story.
What?
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 Oh,
What's it? Karina?
I kept waiting for this story to start,
What are you
and then it was over.
talking about? What are you talking
Who
about?
is this person?
All right.
Gee.
Wait, can I force kick him?
Yes.
Okay,
You
let's
can
start
use
with
him.
Andy's negativity first.
All right, so okay, is story about how destitute extractive manual labor is, and how terrible West Virginia is as a place. So like, cool, got it. That's awful. And I kept waiting for them to do something, and they didn't. And then nothing happened, and then he ate a liver.
Wow.
All right.
And then the story was over.
Wow.
For people who listen to the audio version of this, Gerald and I are just making a bunch of faces. We're just squinting and gasping and covering our mouths.
What the hell?
We're just sitting here in
Wow.
like abject terror.
Yeah, go for it. Show me
Gerald,
up. man.
valiantly defend the story.
Well, what an incredible story. Yes, it may be quite simple. It's a slice of life. It's a day in the life of someone, our main character. But what a story. How well constructed, how well designed and written. What aren't we all just dragged into this terrible lifestyle, this sort of and it's quite interesting because it's easy in a story like this to just paint everything as black and grey and everything's miserable and nothing ever happens. But actually, you really get into the character. And yes, his surroundings are dire. His work is hard. His girlfriend's gone off, and their trailer is sounds horrible. But actually, he's got something there. He's got a spirit. He's got a desire to do something better, to make better of himself. He's got dreams, and he just handles stuff. He deals with things, and I just, I didn't like the environment for the story, but I was so taken in by it. I loved it. I really loved it.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, I understand what you're saying, Andy. We're like, there's no, I don't know how to describe it. I don't want to say there's no big moment, because there are, but there is a tension throughout this entire story that I enjoyed the most. I was at all times afraid of something worse happening than it didn't. And that in itself was an experience, right? Like, I really liked, like, when they're in the mine and Curtis is coming through with logs and measuring the ceiling, and you got to put up posts. You spend a lot of time describing that world to me. I'm terrified of a mining collapse. I'm terrified of what's going to happen here. Just that constant threat of something happening, right? Or when he goes out to hunt by himself after his girl leaves him with Fuller, his nemesis, and he didn't even defend his dog from the wild dogs out there, and he's running out there in the wilderness with a gun. I'm thinking he's going to commit suicide. I'm a little tense about this right now, right? There's just a lot of moments where you're like, this can go really, really wrong. And then it's a world where things do at all times go wrong, right? His dad died in a mining accident, and the idea that something could go wrong for Buddy at any point in this like day and a half, I guess, that we read, it's very real and palpable. And I think the decision to not have something go super, super wrong, aside from Sally leaving him, was a really smart one, because you're tense throughout as if it had. Like, that is a skill. That is super impressive.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I agree with you. But also my conclusion is that's shitty and makes me feel shitty.
I like it. I also like what Gerald was saying, and I completely agree that it just transports you. West Virginia is not that far.
Right,
I can
into a
drive
shitty
there.
place.
Still, you made an alien
It
world of a land that is within the country and the culture that I somewhat understand. And I'm reading the story, and I'm like, whoa, I know nothing. I could get up and drive there in a day, and it's like something. It's just, I loved that feeling of an insider writing very intimately about the world that they know, not taking that break to explain anything to you. I mean, I it's so insider that I'm Googling some of these mining words, and even Google can't help me. Google's like, I don't know. I don't know what that is. Only some things.
I got that feeling while I was reading. I was like, wow, I really got to look into more of this mining terminology and mining processes. As soon as I'm done with this story, I'm gonna do that, and then I'll go back. But then when I was done with the story, I was just like, well, that made me feel shitty and I hate it. So I won't. And I didn't. And so I still don't know the difference of the mining techniques he was describing, because it just makes you feel bad. Why not make me feel good?
Well, the great thing about this is it is sort of semi-modern day. He was born in 52. He committed suicide in 79. So, it's fairly modern. I was looking on Google Maps and looking at Virginia and looking at the countryside and looking at where the mines are and what towns are like. He's got a fantastic way with words of describing things and almost the sort of second paragraph, the wind spraying dust into little clouds and the grey grin of light at the mouth of the truck mine. It's just, it really paints a fantastic picture. And I suppose it's a bit, it's a bit sort of Hemingway-esque in that it's fairly sparse, but it's nearly 5,000 words. It's quite a substantial story, but it's quite gritty and it's quite dark, but you can't help but sort of root for the guy.
Yes, you can. You can help, bud.
And determined, aren't you?
To your point, Gerald.
Look, he's a shitty guy who has a bunch of get-rich-quick schemes. And
no, he doesn't. What?
That's what the girl leaves him for.
No.
This idea?
Of all, hard disagree on so many levels. First of all, what do you mean get-rich-quick schemes? It's not like he's some grifter con man trying to figure out how to swindle people. He still wants to do it through honest labor, and the only thing he knows is just better and more efficient. That is not a get-quick-rich scheme. That's just common sense. And this idea that he has big dreams, that's the one thing with Gerald's summary that I was like, how big are they? They're not very big. And that's the depressing thing about it. He gets this hunt, he kills this doe, and he is reinvigorated to a point. This place is so depressing that your dreams are still small. The biggest he can dream is a strike. You're still here fighting for pennies. You're not actually thinking a lot bigger. You can't even fathom leaving West Virginia, right? There is a tragedy to this, even if at the end of it, he's in better spirits. Even if he is feeling better, you as the reader who are outside of this world, you're like, so tragic. This is as far as he can get.
Yeah, right. And it ends with the killing of a deer, and butchering it and eating its liver, which is bad enough. But then he adds an unborn fawn into the deer that just flops onto the floor, and he kicks it, and you just think, yeah, that's just how that's just how dark this bloody thing is.
And the fawn's also such a nice touch because there's a lot of sort of like unspoken things in there, right? You get the sense, though it's never spelled out for you, that Buddy would like to start a family with Sally, right? He hints at love, the way he interacts with Estep's kid, Andy, and that Lindy, the dog, becomes pregnant. Like there is this sort of like teasing of like family, offspring, having it, not having it, and then he kills something and the unborn fawn within the doe. I don't know. It was like a nice little like echo there of something that had been hinting at the back of the story. Sorry, like this writer's a genius. Like I'm really impressed. And just like the way that he would, like you had described him as Hemingway-esque. Yes, but he's still distinct enough to be his own thing, right?
Yeah.
Like
definitely.
The dialogue was a certain way. There were certain sentences that felt like they're just conveying a mood. And then other times he would just like pack so much in one sentence. Like when one of them was, he remembered a time when the price of her makeup and fancy habits would have fed his mother and sisters something besides the mauve bags of commodities the state handed out. There's so much. That's not a short Hemingway sentence, but for the amount of information that's in there, it's relatively short, right?
Yeah. And I love the fact that his dream residence was a better trailer,
Yes.
a double wide trailer. That's as far as his dreams went. It was just
yeah.
And car ownership.
And car ownership, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's very tragic where, like, he's in this mental prison because of his environment. He can't even dream bigger than the environment.
That's a good phrase.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with everything you're saying. I'm just, in conclusion, that's shitty. Oh, why'd you take your time and all this talent to make me feel shitty?
I love it. I love it. I love it. Make me feel, I mean, making a reader feel anything is already impressive enough. And then he just really takes you there. Yeah. I loved it. It's so good.
Yeah. It's just, when I read it and I thought, oh, that's a bit dark. And I read it again. And I thought, oh my God, it is so dark. It's so visceral and grim. But it's not done to shock us as who don't live in that. He's describing a person's environment. Buddy is in this environment, and this is his life, and you're taken along with that, and you're not. It's not like a television where you say, "Oh, look at this shitty, lifestyle that these people have." No, it's this guy. It's totally character driven, and it's his surroundings rather than the lifestyle being displayed to us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And also, like, we keep saying it's dark, but it's dark because of who we are, right? Like, I wonder if somebody from that community, instead of feeling super dark, if they would feel seen, right? Like, just like, this is so true, right? Like, I've had stories I've read where I'm like, oh my God, this is me. I feel so seen. And I wonder if somebody from that environment would feel that way. And that is in itself like a bit of a gift. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so... It's so insider, like just like the inside intimate knowledge that he has about this world that he's like capturing so beautifully that to us from the outside, we're like, oh my God, this is a haunted and tragic story. And someone on the inside might be able to laugh like, oh my God. And then he got into that bar fight. I remember bar fights, right?
And it also makes you wonder how much life for a manual coal miner, if there are still such things, how much life has changed. People still live in trailers. People still have fights and still have their girlfriends leave them, and people still hunt deer. And so, is it so different these days? I have no idea.
I mean, these days the jobs are just disappearing. But I think also, like, when this was, a big, I think West Virginia was always particularly poorly off compared to other ones, because I've also remember reading like in Pennsylvania and stuff like that, in other places, it wasn't as destitute. Like, you could, like, a man working in this job could support a middle class family of four, with a stay-at-home mom. There was a time when that was the case. And there was something about West Virginia, and I don't know enough about this industry or the history of it, that for some reason, like West Virginia is just like extra, I don't know, like oppressed in some way or not. I don't know. I don't know what it is about West Virginia that just made it kind of struggle in a way. Because there's some other places that supported entire middle-class communities around this industry. And there were good jobs, labor jobs, paid well, hardworking, back-breaking, but you weren't in trailers. Yeah.
And you know, we had it. I mean, where I was born and brought up in Birmingham, and we had a lot of, you know, yes, it was, this is mid 70s onwards. So yes, there were still dark factories and there was still dirty, smelly work to be done. But these huge factories that have now been flattened and made into housing estates, these huge factories provided work for so many strata of society. And yeah, I get the feeling that even the guy who worked in the basement sweeping up the oily crap off the floor, you know, he earns enough to provide for his family back home, and all those jobs are gone. You know, there's no real, well, there's very few proper working class jobs now.
Or they're all in service and retail.
Yeah,
like that's right. Yeah, they do exist. We still have that. It's just in a different industry. It moved.
And you know, we have 0 hours contracts, and so the workers can be told on the morning that they're not required, or come in or don't come back, sort of thing. And there's a lot of young people scrabbling around with degrees for that sort of job because nothing else for them. Yeah.
Tell me more of this phenomenon. I'm not familiar.
No, sorry.
Andy has been triggered.
Yeah. Oops. Who could imagine that, eh? Wow.
So this story inspired me to read a lot about the author, Gerald, as well, since he's, you know, been sharing a lot about the author as well in this discussion. But one of the things, there was one New Yorker article that was just kind of like the author was just losing his mind about like the existence of Breece DJ Pancake. And he made a comment that stayed with me. So there's the short stories of Breece DJ Pancake, which is a slim anthology that is like a cult favorite amongst like literary writers, right? Like right now I want to join this club of people who have read this and lose their minds about it. And Hollow is in there, and it's one of the better ones. And apparently Trilobites is really good too. But he says that the stories take place in the present, and it's over the span of like hours or days. Like they're like the time lapse in the stories tend to be quite short, but it's always set against a geological time of epochs and eras, right? And that happened in the story too, like a reference of like how long this vein has been here, the coal has been here, the trilobites, the fossils, right? Like there's this like juxtaposition that occurs. And I just want to like read the anthology with that in mind as well.
Yeah.
It's so good. It's just so smart.
And the thing about his you know, his whatever his lung infection or lung problem is just little dropped in, you know, pain jabbed his lungs, Buddy said coughing, and then a little while later it's stirred his lungs to bleeding, and you just think, oh wow, that's just nice. Don't forget, guys, this, look, that's what it is.
Yeah, it's just like constantly living with constant risk on the job, outside of the job, financial, and then, you know, all the physical ailments that come with it. Yeah. It's great. Also, I love how like Buddy's itching for a fight and he doesn't get it from Fuller, so he fights Johnson instead. Just it's so good, right? And you don't and like there isn't like there's some authors who would then find a way to explain to you, the reader, he was itching for a fight and he's mad, so he like pushed this thing. Where like here, you know, they may not spell it out for you. Like a lot of writers would find a subtle way to like wink that at you, and you still have to pick up on it. But here, no, here they pretend that it's because Johnson was stealing, right? Like, like Buddy's delusion is the only thing you read, right? Like you have to like psychoanalyze Buddy because he ain't doing it to himself. He's not a very internal person. He lacks self-awareness. He's like, oh yeah, that's why. Sure.
And I love the fact they drilled a hole in a lump of coal and put a shell in it. Just scared him. What's with the E step or S step? What's
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah. Also, just like the dialogue, the way they talk, like when Curtis is like, "I'm gonna go home and get drunk," and then E-Step or S-Step is like, "Yeah, last time I did it, I got another kid." Like, great, I love it. Oh, and also, just real quick, the surprise when Buddy backhands Sally at the dinner table out of nowhere.
Yes.
Well delivered. Yeah.
Yeah.
I felt it.
It's yeah. It's amazing. Yeah. And the food that she'd produced, it just, it's so cleverly described, and you know what it is, and it's horrible stuff, and yeah, but they've got no money. There's always money coming up ahead.
And he's working super hard.
He is working super hard. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. Andy, have we swayed you at all?
No, I agree with everything you said. So I just find it shitty.
So you just didn't enjoy the reading of it at all.
Right.
It was no fun for you.
Right. It's like, oh, good. Oh, good. You are super talented. Great. And you chose to use your talents to make me feel shitty.
So
he didn't use his talents to make you feel shitty.
Yes,
he used his talents to beautifully illustrate the life that he knows so well and so intimately, and give a lot of love to especially Buddy, who has an interesting little emotional arc that at all times feels tense, but doesn't go that way.
Yeah.
I
mean, he's going to die of this lung thing if he doesn't die of a whole accident.
Or he could die of a lot of things.
Yeah.
And Andy wanted
constant threats.
Andy wanted a happy ending, didn't he?
Or like, I don't know, or a sad ending. It just stopped.
It's, I don't know.
It just stops, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a comment from Mark Lethbridge saying, "Oh, Andy, no missile crisis here," and he's letting rip. It's just how I am. I can only go at 100 miles per hour.
Yeah, yeah. It's that sort of story. It's either gonna take you away and whisk you away and think what a wonderful story, or it's going to be like Andy, you said, it made me feel shitty.
Right, right. It did whisk me away to a West Virginian coal mine. I didn't want to be there.
Oh dear. Oh dear. There you go.
I feel like Gerald and I have like chewed through all of my notes that I showed you guys that are written in like serial killer hand. It's just like scrambling. I'm so excited.
And this. What about this?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's
I definitely want to read his anthology.
Me too.
Yeah, you guys both should, and then tell me about it. I'm not going to read it.
Well, we won't let you read it.
Yeah, how about that?
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
I think that's probably about it.
Anything else that you guys want to add?
The fossil bit was nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, with the kid, yeah.
With the kid.
Yeah.
Right.
See?
Write more about that.
There is a short story in the anthology that's about that.
Good.
Trilobites.
Yeah.
Tell me how it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so are we ready to rate?
I am.
I'm ready. I was born ready.
Let's send with Andy's negative 6. Okay, Andy.
6. Sorry.
Wow.
Yeah.
6.
Yeah.
I thought for
6.
sure you'd give it a 5.
Nope.
Okay.
Bang. As
wow.
soon as I read it the first time, I thought this is a 6.
Yeah, it's a 2 for me.
What? What?
I feel like this. I'm just gonna roll my eyes. Infinite.
Yes. Karina, what are you doing?
Yeah, Karina.
Word.
Have a talk with Andy.
Has she read it or not?
No.
I guess not.
Because I told her it was bad.
Yeah.
She should not believe you. I'm sure she would give it a 6, as I am. I'm also giving it a 6. Yes.
Oh, wow! That's a big spread. That's
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Very good.
Okay. Well, hopefully, Andy, the story that you're submitting next week will thrill you.
Yeah,
Yes.
I also hope that. Do you know what it is?
I know what it is, but it's your story. You get to say it.
You want me to tell you?
Yeah.
It's A Challenge You Have Overcome by Allegra Goodman.
Okay. But before you go, tell us about your rundown coal mining town at our Facebook group, the Literary Roadhouse Readers. And if you don't want to share Literary Show Turned to Dust, review us on iTunes and support our podcast on Patreon at patreon.com/Literary Roadhouse. Every bit helps. And as always, share this podcast with the loyal blue tick dog in your life. Until next time, read a good story.
Read a good story like this one.
Yes.
Or a different one.
Oh. Or a different one too, sure.